There is a failure mode in leadership that nobody puts in the job description. It doesn't show up in your performance review, it doesn't get flagged in your 360 feedback. And by the time the people around see you clearly, it has already been costing you for months. Here's what it looks like: a leader who has stopped being able to hear the truth. Not because they lack intelligence or they don't care. It's because something deeply human happened gradually, quietly, across months of carrying responsibility, making decisions, and pouring themselves into the work. At some point, the work stopped being something they were doing, it became something they were. And that shift, that invisible, uncelebrated moment, is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a leader at any level. When you are a founder building from zero, a manager running a team of 10, or a senior leader shaping an entire organization, this trap doesn't discriminate. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how it happens, why the best leaders fall into it, and most importantly, the distinction that separates leaders who catch it in time from leaders who don't. Let's get into it. I want to tell you why I'm making this video. In my work with leaders, founders, senior managers, business owners, or operators, the conversation that matter most are rarely about strategy or systems or marketing. They are about this. The moment a leader loses the ability to see themselves clearly, the moment the gap opens up between how they think they are showing up and how they are actually landing on the people around them. I've watched this happen to brilliant people, deeply capable, genuinely committed leaders who built something real, led real teams, made real sacrifices, and somewhere in that process, without noticing, they crossed a line. The work became personal in a way that made honest feedback feel like personal attack. That's the trap I want to talk about today. Because understanding it, really understanding it, might be the most important leadership development work you'll ever do. Let me walk you through exactly how this happens. Because it doesn't happen dramatically, it happens in the ordinary, unremarkable accumulation of days. Think about what sustained leadership actually involves: late nights that stretch into months, decisions made with incomplete information, relationships quietly strained by the demand of the role, a personal identity that slowly, almost imperceptibly, begins to fuse with the thing you are leading. In the beginning, the work is something you are doing. You have distance from it. You can assess it, critique it, question it. It exists separately from your sense of self. But then something shifts. And I want to use founders as an example here because this pattern is most visible in them. But I want you to hear it as a mirror for every leader in every context. A founder builds a product from nothing. They pour everything into it: their time, their relationship, their identity, and slowly the product stops being something they are working on. It becomes something they are. Now, translate that to any leadership context: the manager who built the team from scratch, the department head who designed the entire process, the leader who championed the strategy that's now being questioned. Same pattern, different context. Because once that fusion happened, once that work becomes an extension of identity, something changes in how feedback lands. It no longer arrives as information, it arrives as rejection. A team member raises a concern and the leader hears criticism of their judgment. A stakeholder questions the direction and the leader hears a challenge to their capability. A peer suggests a different approach and the leader hears, "You are not good enough." So, the leader does what every human being does when they feel threatened. They start defending, explaining, they subtly reframe the challenge as the other person not understanding the full picture. They don't have the context I have, they are not seeing the long term vision. They are being short sighted. And every time that reframe happens, the gap widens. The gap between what the people around them are actually seeing and what the leader is willing to hear. That gap, left unaddressed, doesn't just affect the leader, it affects the team's willingness to speak honestly. It affects the culture's capacity for truth telling. It affects the organization's ability to course correct before small problems become expensive ones. And here's what makes this a trap rather than a flaw: it is a completely predictable consequence of caring deeply about what you lead. Passion and commitment are what make great leaders, but unchecked, that same passion becomes the thing that stops a leader from seeing clearly. The fuel becomes the blindfold, and most leaders never see it happening because it happens so gradually, so naturally that by the time it's visible, the damage is already compounding. So, what separates the leaders who fall fully into this trap from the ones who actually catch themselves? I want to give you the single most important distinction I've encountered in working with leaders across different industries and contexts. And it applies whether you are a founder, a manager, or a senior executive. The leaders who stay effective long term are not attached to their current version, they are attached to the outcome they are trying to create. Let me make that a little more concrete. When a founder is in love with their product, every piece of feedback is a threat. Every change might feel like a loss. Every pivot is a small grief. But when a founder is in love with the problem they are solving, the product becomes a vehicle, not an identity. Changing it feels like progress because it gets them closer to what actually matters. Now, bring that same principle into leadership more broadly. The manager who is attached to how things are currently done hears process feedback as personal criticism. But the manager who is attached to the outcome the team is trying to achieve hears process feedback as useful data. The leader who is attached to their strategic call hears challenges as threats to their credibility. But the leader who is attached to the organization's success hears challenges as opportunities to stress test their thinking. One distinction, completely different leadership experience. And here's how you know which camp you are in. When someone challenges something you have built, led, or decided, what is the first thing you feel? Curiosity or threat? That immediate, visceral, honest feeling before you've had time to construct a response will tell you everything. Curiosity means your identity is attached to the outcome. Threat means your identity is attached to your current version of how to get there. Neither makes you a bad leader, but only one of them keeps you coachable. Only one of them keeps your team psychologically safe enough to tell you the truth. And only one of them gives your organization the capacity to learn faster than the challenges it faces. So, how do you actually protect yourself from this? And how do you build a leadership practice that keeps you open rather than defended? Three practices, each one simple, none of them easy. Engineer discomfort into your feedback loops deliberately. Most leaders, without meaning to, build feedback environments that are designed to confirm what they already believe. They have conversations with people who are emotionally invested in their success. They surround themselves with advisors who are too polite or too cautious to say the hard thing. They read the positive signals and rationalize the negative ones, and slowly the insulation builds. The antidote is to deliberately seek the feedback that is hardest to hear. Go to the team member who seems disengaged and ask them what they are not saying. Go to a stakeholder who seems unconvinced and ask them what's creating the hesitation. Go to the person in your network who you know will not manage your ego and ask them what they are observing that you might not be able to see. And when they speak, your only job is to listen without defending. Not to agree with everything, not to act on everything, but to genuinely receive it without immediately constructing a rebuttal. The willingness to hear uncomfortable things faster than your peers is not a weakness in leadership. It is one of the most significant competitive advantages a leader can have. Separate your identity from your current approach. This is a practice of language as much as mindset. Instead of this is how we do things, try this is our current approach and here's what would need to change for us to revisit it. Instead of I've always believed, try based on what I've seen so far, I think, and I'm open to being shown otherwise. That second framing does something powerful. It signals to your team that you are running experiments, not defending monuments. And that signal over time creates exactly the kind of psychological safety where people bring you honest information instead of managing your comfort. The leaders who build the strongest cultures are almost never the ones with the most answers. They are the ones whose teams feel safest bringing them the most honest questions. Build a small circle whose job is to tell you the truth. Every leader needs 2 or 3 people in their life, not on their payroll, not dependent on their approval, whose role is to reflect reality back to them honestly. Not cheerleaders, not yes people. People who will sit across from you and say, I think you are reacting to this personally rather than strategically. And I think it's costing you. That kind of a relationship is rare. It takes time to build. It requires a specific kind of trust. But it is one of the highest leverage investments any leader can make in their own development. The truth will reach you eventually. The only question is whether it reaches you from someone who cares about your growth early enough to do something with it, or from the consequences of not hearing it when it's already expensive to fix. Protect that circle, be honest with them, and when they push back, resist the urge to explain. Ask instead, what are you seeing that I might not be able to see right now? That question, asked in a genuine openness, is one of the most powerful tools in a leader's toolkit. The greatest leaders don't protect their positions, they protect their ability to continue to grow. Let me bring this home. There is a silent trap in leadership that has nothing to do with strategy, skill, or commitment. It's the moment a leader stops being able to hear the truth. Not because they stopped caring, not because they became arrogant, because the most human thing happened. They built something, led something, poured everything into something, and slowly, without noticing, they became it. And once that happens, feedback becomes threat. Honest voices go quiet. The culture starts reflecting the leader's defensiveness instead of organization's potential. The leaders who escape this pattern carry one fundamental distinction. They are not attached to their current version, they are attached to the outcome they exist to create. And because of that, they can hear hard things, change direction, and be wrong in public without losing themselves in the process. They deliberately engineer uncomfortable feedback. They separate their identity from their current approach. And they protect the small circle of people brave enough to tell them what's real. Because the willingness to hear the truth faster than your peers, it is not a vulnerability in leadership. It is the only edge that compounds over time. If this gave you something worth thinking about, subscribe. Every week, I publish content for leaders, founders, and operators who want to lead with more depth, more self awareness, and more lasting impact. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Where in your leadership right now are you most at risk of defending instead of listening? Be honest. This is a space for real conversation. I'll see you in the next one.